Umbra Witches and the Lumen Sages, two clans that wielded incredible power just 500 years ago. The clans of the Overseer, watching over us all with the eyes of the world. The power to govern light and darkness.
Did you miss me?
John, it's finally time to find out.
Yeah?
Time to find out whether or not buying a Wii U was worth it.
Is it?
Because you know what? You can take your Marios, you can take anything that's got Mario on it, you can just throw that shit out in the street with somebody who gives a damn. Because there's only one reason to own a Wii U, and that's Bayonetta goddamn 2. I would buy a Jaguar and a Lynx and a Neo Geo and tape them all together and sacrifice a goat on top of them if I had a chance to play Bayonetta 2.
What about an N-Gage?
No, fuck that. I don't ever play an N-Gage. Welcome, everybody, to Rage Select. We are reviewing Bayonetta 2 today. I am Jeff.
I'm John.
And, John, sometimes people say to me, they say, Jeff, and I say, yes, Larry. And Larry says, Jeff, you sometimes you just seem like you're really critical and that you complain all the time about stuff. And I go, well, Larry, it's just because I want the best for this world. I want everybody, when a person does something wrong in a video game, I got to point at that thing and laugh like a high school bully and go, what were you thinking? Microtransactions. That's a whole other review that we're not to yet. But I can point at Bayonetta 2 and go, yeah, because man, like fucking right. Yes, it seems like we had to wait forever, but fucking right, yeah. Bayonetta 2, shit. All right, so Bayonetta 2 picks up a little ways after Bayonetta 1. The beginning of the game, if you guys seen the dojo, Bayonetta is out shopping with Joe Pesci. I don't remember that guy's name. He's just Joe Pesci to me.
He's Joe Pesci to everyone.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually, Enzo is his name.
Enzo,
I was actually showing, I showed my sister Bayonetta 2. And at the beginning of the game, Enzo and her are shopping, and Enzo's doing his Enzo thing like he does in the beginning of Bayonetta 1. And she's like, is this guy in the entire game? Because I want to punch him. And I was just like, yeah, I get that. But it did give me an idea for a really good Joe Pesci game. But nobody take that. I called Joe Pesci game. That's mine.
All right.
Mine. Anyway, Bayonetta and Enzo are shopping, and like, oh my goodness, the fucking crazy angels and lumen sages and things, everything blowing up. All her clothes come off. The hair thing, it's turned into a jumpsuit. Bayonetta is fucking winking at the camera, pulling the guns out, blam, 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 blam. And the game gets started from there. I guess I should be a little bit. I'll try to be a little bit less excited. For those of you who are not aware, Bayonetta is a game about a witch, an Umbra witch called Bayonetta.
Yes,
the Umbra witches are the opposite of the Lumen Sages, the two groups that kind of maintain heaven and hell, respectively, between angels and demons, that are kind of vying in a weird balance of control for our world and our reality. And Bayonetta is a character that goes through a kind of a Bayonetta 1 is a personal character growth story where she doesn't have her memories, but that she kind of figures out who she is and where she came from and why she's important to the world. And now we get this second story. And in a nutshell, this story starts with the angels coming down and just fucking wrecking shit. And in the midst of all of this happening, John gets injured. And so Bayonetta is going to this specific location. It's funny because the game starts in New York City, right? And all of Bayonetta 1 took place in this kind of weirdly medieval land, even though it was implied that it was all modern day, right?
Yeah, it's like modern. It's kind of this weird modern day, kind of medieval, kind of magic, weird Europe thing.
Like there's this one area where everything is still all medieval and stupid, right? But it's still got a train station that goes to...
and everyone has cars.
Right. So in this one, they start out in the big city and everything seems pretty much normal, but then they have to go... They take the Indiana Jones red line over to this island that has this place where you can enter the different upper and lower planes, and that's kind of the beginning of Bayonetta's story. So in some ways, is kind of what happens in the first one. Bayonetta gets involved with, a new thing that's going on, and there's some interesting plots. Actually, you know what? I don't want to say very much more, John. I really don't, because if people have an interest in playing this game, I don't want to spoil it, because, and I don't want to sit here and be an overdramatic Oliver with you, but like, if you like Bayonetta, fuck, man. This game has fan service. It has connections to the lore. It has it fits in as a sequel, just basically about as good as I could imagine a sequel happening.
Yeah.
And it's really fantastic. It has some twists and turns. It has some ups and downs. The characters, all the characters from the first one. I mean, Enzo, whatever, his ass gets pushed out of the game in the first game very quickly, and in the second one as well. He kind of bookends the game as some comic relief. But basically, you've got Bayonetta, you've got John, and you've got who's the demon guy who sells her stuff? Rodan. That's right. And they all get a little bit more time, a little bit more exposition about kind of what's going on with them. Bayonetta, not so much so. You know, the first game was very much all about Bayonetta, and this game, there's actually, no, that's not even true. There's this crazy amount of personal growth for Bayonetta, even more so in the first one. There's revelations in the first one, and the second one, there's growth that is on that revelations. And, oh my God, it's the perfect just video game. It's the best thing I've ever played, except for Loki, man.
Oh, Loki.
Fucking Tom Hiddleston. Just getting into place. No. So, in the first game, for those of you who haven't played the first game, okay, let's take a step back further, John. For those of you who don't know me, Jeff, right? Not a big kids in video games, movies, comic books kind of guy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a real easy way to gin up some kind of some real cheap and easy emotion, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that I don't like it. So kids kind of up until maybe 18, right? Anybody who's below that age in media, not really super big on, right?
Okay.
Most of the time they're hostages, they're people you got to escort around, or they're used in peril in kind of dumb ways, right? Okay. In the first game, there is this little girl called Cereza, and I am going to sit here and tell you that Jeff doesn't like kids, but that was one of the cutest little kids of all time. And her interaction with Bayonetta was adorable.
Yeah.
It
really
was just like I was watching it going, I can't even not like this. It's just too, you got this 9.5 foot tall witch lady with guns on her fucking high heels, and then this little 3-year-old girl walking around behind her, like holding on to her, her hand. It was adorable.
Yeah, it really
great.
was. It really was.
Okay, so in this game, there is another kid. Now, this kid is more of, it's hard to tell. He's like in more of the 7 to 10-year-old thing. He's wearing like a hoodie. He throws cards like Gambit. He's actually very integral to the story, except that he's not a kid. He's like, he talks like a 35-year-old barfly Lothario with a British accent. He calls Bayonetta love, and he flirts with her, and the entire time, and I'm just like, oh God, dude. I mean, I know that, like, okay, he's not actually 7. He's, magic. It's, you got deities and all this shit going on. So he's obviously very old and whatever. And he's just got this kid body or whatever. But still, ew.
Yeah,
ew, gross.
Ew, yeah.
And there's some kind of, I mean, not super ew. Not like I ever was just like, okay, skip past that. But his character was not charming. His attitude was too cocky, especially after the 4th or 5th time that his shit got saved by other people, and I was just like, dude, shut up. And while he does tie into the story in an interesting way, to me, he was, as far as the story of the game goes, entirely the lowest point. Fortunately, he's not in every single scene. He's not there all the time, and there's plenty of other stuff to make up for that. All right, so from there, let's go ahead and move on to the gameplay. And this is one that I think is really interesting because the gameplay in Bayonetta 1 was, in my opinion, rock solid. Like, easy to get into.
Yeah.
difficult to master. Like the difficulty level was high enough so that you might struggle a little bit, but it was interesting. They gave you enough resources. They gave you enough powers. They gave you enough upgrades and things like that you could always get to the end of the level. Now, you may get the shittiest ranking when you got to the end of that level,
true.
but you could get to the end of the level. And if you were having trouble with the level, you could always back it up and grind in a previous level and then get enough healing materials to move forward through the end of that level.
Correct.
This game is largely unchanged from the first one. The major difference seems to be that you can use the magic to activate these kind of super attacks that you can do, whereas in the first one, the magic only had one use. And so it adds a little bit to it, but it's very similar. You can equip one set of weapons in your hands and one set of weapons in your feet. Those weapons are mapped to two attack buttons, and so you have a combo system where you can do XXY, YXX, or X pause Y. You can jump, and then you can also dodge, and dodging is very important because in the Bayonetta franchise, if you dodge at the very last second, it goes into witch time where everything slows down and you're able to get all these hits in. So the better you are at the system, the more rewarded you are for having that practice. And so, and also, I talked about this in a previous review, but one of the things that just really, I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why some developers have trouble with it, but Bayonetta is so good at it. Just about every single level in the game, they introduce one new enemy type to you. They introduce an enemy type, and you get to beat them around, and then as soon as it's like the game has some kind of weird ESP. As soon as you're cool with how to get rid of those dumb dogs, right, or the big armor thing, or like these flying whatevers, right, the game is like, oh, okay, he's good with that. Here's a new one that's now going to be in there with the rest of those. And each one of them has an introduction where they kind of come down and they show them in this book, and then the book closes and it gives their name and everything.
I got to say, that's actually one of the things I've always liked about the Bayonetta games, because I played the first one and beat it, and I played a little bit of the second one, is that how they do that, is when they introduce a new enemy to you, that presentation of, hey, this is a kind of a thing. This is a deal, a big deal that you want to pay attention to kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about Bayonetta 2 is that there's not just angels this time around, but there's also demons.
Oh, no.
Which they each side has a kind of a different, has a slightly different. Every enemy in the game has a fairly unique attack profile, right? Where they'll attack in slightly different ways that kind of keep you on your toes. There'll be some, especially in a mixed group, you have to take into account what enemies are there. I really, really enjoy it. Now, it's funny because I really enjoy the fact that the moveset, right? Because you can, when you go through the level, you get these rings, and you can use them, halos, right? You can use the halos to buy new moves or artifacts or outfits or a whole bunch of other things, consumables. The moveset, at least, we're going to come back to this later because this also, the Wii U version of Bayonetta 2 also has Bayonetta. And I played about half of Bayonetta before I went to Bayonetta 2. And the moveset in those two games, almost entirely identical. 95% identical, right? There's like 3 or 4 new moves in Bayonetta 2 that weren't in Bayonetta 1. Which means that it's very similar, and I think that you can take that as both either a good thing or a bad thing. There's one way where you would say, well, it worked really well, so why fuck with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why dick it up? On the other hand, you could say, well, if you're the kind of person who's played Bayonetta multiple times and you're super familiar with it, you could go, well, I was looking for something slightly different from the last game. Like, I was looking for you guys to iterate on that, and you didn't really. In fact, even some of the artifacts that you get that are able to spawn like sub effects and things, those are roughly similar to what they were in the first game. So, in fact, a lot of it is similar to the first game. There's some areas that are very similar. The way that you pick up materials to make lollipops that you can use to buff your defense or get health back or things like that, totally similar to the first one, except they don't make you do this dumb stirring motion. They just let you go, bam, done. So once again, that's the sort of thing that each individual person that wants to go play the game is going to have to look at as either a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, in fact, even a lot of the angel enemies, there are quite a few new ones, but there's also maybe, say, 20, 30% of them that are very similar to what you saw in the previous games. Given that, though, I never got tired of playing this game. It's about 12 hours long, or it's about 12 to 14 hours for me. Never got tired of playing it, not once. Like, as soon as I was starting to get like to the point where I felt like I had a handle on stuff, here's some other kind of crazy level. Here's some kind of flying level. Here's some kind of this thing. Or here's a new character to come in and change up your gameplay. It was consistently moving, and it was never slowing down, and I really appreciated that because it just kept it fresh. Like, I just tore through this game like nobody's business. Oh, also, as a brief side note, they took that dumb Angel Attack minigame out.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, is a good thing. Sorry, fans of Angel Attack, but I thought that was kind of unpleasant after a while. Now, in relation to all that, I'm going to tell you this right now, that when I was playing Bayonetta 1 on the Wii U, I usually had to go through a level and kind of figure out the best way to attack it. And there were plenty of levels where I had to actually use a fair amount of healing items to get to the end of the level. Bayonetta 2 was significantly easier, to the point where I only died in a level where I had to continue once, and I only used about 3 or 4 healing items over the course of the entire game.
Okay.
Consistently getting silver medals on almost every level that I played the first time through, unless I just really like hit some kind of quick time event where you just kept falling to your doom, right?
Yeah.
The penalties seem to be less severe here for dying than they were in Bayonetta 1, or because I played through half or two-thirds of Bayonetta 1 before I played Bayonetta 2, I was so much in the zone that I didn't have any ramp up. But I don't really think that accounts for it too much, right?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it does sound like, from what you're saying, that it is a little bit maybe more user-friendly, or maybe not easier, but
I think that on normal, I think it's been toned down.
Okay, yeah.
I honestly do. And whether that's the negative hits that you take for continuing or what. But here's another thing is in Bayonetta 1, each individual level is broken up, and you get a grade for every single fight that you do. But in Bayonetta 1, there are a bunch of little sub-levels, and each one of those sub-levels is hidden, and you have to find it.
Yeah.
You go to this area, it's got a challenge where you have to, like, kill these enemies without touching the ground, right? Or kill all the enemies in 10 seconds, or 2 minutes, or only when you're in which time can you attack them,
yeah,
right?
or, only if this type of move will actually do damage.
Right. In Bayonetta 2, it is way easier to find those. If you just spend a little bit of time moving to one side or the other, they're a lot easier to find in the game than they were in Bayonetta 1. And that may also have contributed to the score that I was able to get, because I had much fewer... Like in Bayonetta 1, if you just go from the beginning of the level to the end of the level, you'll miss like 4 of these in almost every level of the game, and it really drags your score down quite a bit.
And I kind of remember a lot of people complaining about that, and I'm wondering if that is a criticism that they looked at and went, okay, we see that, let's see how we can make that better.
Very possibly. I mean, I enjoyed it more because I liked doing those, but it's like you didn't have to... They didn't break up the action and the gameplay. Like, you could just kind of divert a little bit from one side to the other. And find this stuff. There was also, I guess there was one new thing where there were treasure chests that were broken into pieces where you had a limited amount of time to pick up all the pieces in the level, and then it would make the chest appear. That was a new thing. They still have the same records like they did in the first one that give you different weapons that you can use. And I got about half of the weapons. There's plenty that I didn't even go and get through. And then the game has a bunch of different rewards for beating it on easy, medium, hard, and extreme. And getting gold or platinum or pure platinum medals and all of those will definitely get you stuff. So if you're the kind of person who likes to go back and play through a game multiple times, it definitely. This is definitely a solid game. I mean, if you like to go play a game once, it's still a very solid game, but it's got a lot of replay value because there's a lot of reasons to go back in, find stuff, to unlock more costumes or different power-ups or things like that over time. There's also a whole co-op mode in the game that you can play online where you basically pick a stage and it'll you can choose. It's a series of stages, right? So you hook up with one other person or the computer, and you two fight, and you can pick what character you want, whether it's John or Bayonetta or there's some. Anyway, you go into the stage. It'll be tweaked for a certain difficulty level, or it'll only allow you to have certain things. You go through the stage, and if you beat it, depending on how quickly you beat it, you'll get halos that you can then take with you. You have to go through a track of stages, but there are a ton of these things. Like every time you beat a level, it unlocks a bunch of those stages in co-op for you to play. I played a little bit of it, not a horrific amount, but if you, it's a really interesting addition that I'm not sure entirely works, but it is interesting, and it does give you money when you play it, which is great because you can unlock more stuff. Outside of that, I'll just take a few moments to say, music in this game, fantastic.
I love the music in the first one.
Art style in this game, fantastic. Well, as in the first game where they had they used the Fly Me to the Moon, the kind of techno remix of that. Here they have a kind of techno version of Moon River that they play all the time.
That's hilarious.
Which you would kind of think that I would get tired of, but I don't. I just never did. So the story is really fantastic. The art style, I think, is incredible. I'm going to say right now that there's some people... I like the change that's been done to both Bayonetta and Jean and the world in and of itself. It's just a really fantastic game. It's really easy to get into. It's really fun, and if you like Bayonetta as a character, which I definitely do, I think that it's a total gas, man. Like it's great. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. I really enjoyed it. On the Wii U, I guess you can play the whole game on the Wii U pad if you want to. I played the whole game with a classic controller. I thought that it worked fine. And with all of that, John, I would give this game a 4.5. But this game for $60 comes with Bayonetta 1. Comes with the best version of Bayonetta 1 I've ever seen. Looks great, sounds great, bonus Nintendo costumes, whole other Bayonetta game. You're going from like one 14-hour game. I feel like I'm doing an infomercial right now.
Yeah.
But wait, if you order right now,
there's more.
We'll give you a Yoshi hat. No, but yeah, $60. You just buy the game for $60. Boom, you also get Bayonetta 1. And because of that, I'm going to give it a full goddamn 5 stars because it's one of the best games I played so far this year. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And if you own a Wii U, I don't think there's any reason not to go get this game.
No. Can I be honest with you about something?
What's that?
When I was going to buy a Wii U when it was announced,
right?
But when they announced Bayonetta 2, I was like, oh no, that just solidified I'm getting it on day one. And then people were like, but Bayonetta 2 doesn't come out on day one. I was like, I don't care.
Just shut your fucking logic mouth.
It's like, I don't care. I'm getting it day one because it's going to have Bayonetta.
I'm going to buy 3 Wii U's. I don't even give a fuck.
You can't open the road to Fimbulventer without my powers. So, what do you say?
Umbra Witch? Or shall I call you Bayonetta?
Illumin Sage. Cheeky. No one bothered telling me any of your kind survived.
Your impudence will cost you your life, Witch!